So, Extreme Earth, to find out about the water cycle and the distribution of water around the world. So, where does rain come from? Where does it come from? Think about that question. All the water in the world rises from the Earth's surface and falls back to the ground in a continuous cycle which is driven by the sun's energy. Water that falls back to the ground is called precipitation. So precipitation, anything that falls from the earth that is water is called precipitation and can be in the form of rain, snow, hail or sleet. Have a look at the diagram of the water cycle on the next slide. Let's see what is happening. So, you can describe what is happening, maybe with someone else in your house. Think about all these arrows here. From the clouds, down through these streams, and then into rivers and seas, and then back up into the clouds. Okay, so let's see what these parts are called. So the water cycle principally works through a process of evaporation and condensation. So heat causes water to evaporate and turn into vapor, which rises to form clouds. So that's why when it rains a bit, especially this time of year, if it rains a bit, but then the sun comes out, it's very warm, and that heat from the sun and from the air in general makes the water, the puddles from the rain evaporate and turn into water vapor, which form the clouds. So all the clouds you see in the sky are really, it's old water, or old rain really, that's fallen in the past and evaporated. And when the water cools, it condenses and turns back into a liquid, which falls as rain. So water vapor cools as it gets higher in the atmosphere. So we start there. The water vapor condenses and cools and falls as precipitation. So that's when it's cooled down. In colder conditions, though, the water will fall as a solid snow instead of rain. So it's a solid instead of a liquid rain. And then after it's ran off, the rain and snow, back into streams and rivers and seas, the heat from the sun causes water to evaporate, and then the cycle continues again. So that's continuous. Plants also release water vapor through a process called transpiration. This vapor also becomes clouds. Much of the precipitation that falls in mountains runs down in streams and rivers. Eventually, these all lead back to the ocean. So the water coming off plants that it doesn't need is called transpiration, but it will absorb quite a bit of water until there's too much from what it needs. So plants release water through transpiration, but much of the water on higher ground will run down towards the sea in streams and rivers. So these rivers have completely dried up because it hasn't rained for months. Why do you think some places get more rain than others? So why are places drier than others? Like this part of the country is actually much drier than other parts of the country. I think the northwest and Scotland in particular as well. Northwest of England and Scotland gets much more rain than we do in the UK. We do in England, in southern England. Other parts of the UK get much less. Do you know what a drought is? What do you think causes a drought? Doing a video. That was just Samuel. Do you know what a drought is? What do you think causes a drought? A drought is a temporary water shortage. Droughts can happen in any part of the world. In richer countries, a drought may just mean that people have to use less water. Hosepipe bans are a common way of tackling drought in Western countries. In developing countries, however, drought is a much more serious threat. The lack of rain causes crops to fail, animals to die, and drinking water to become scarce, so less common when it's scarce. The effects of droughts can kill thousands of people. This crop of corn has been ruined because of a drought. So lots of areas in the world, especially more developing places and poorer countries, drought is a very serious threat, very bad for people, in this country, usually when there's just a temporary water shortage, they'll just say to people to stop using hose pipes in their gardens. It's much more serious in developing countries. So water is extremely important. Another danger with drought is the threat of forest fires. If you were watching the news before, this all happened with the coronavirus, there was really bad forest fires in Australia. And this was because of drought and also climate change as well. When an area has had no rain and the plants and trees become dry, they become extremely combustible. When it's combustible, it means it burns very easily. This devastates the landscape, causes animals to lose their homes, and kills both animals and people. There are lots of causes of drought. Changes in wind patterns can move clouds and moisture through the atmosphere so that an area might not get any rain for a few weeks or months. If there are no clouds, or not the right type of clouds, there is no rain. Droughts can also be caused by humans. If crops and trees are removed from an area, the soil cannot retain moisture, which increases the problems of Yes, please. There's 8 children, 4 staff, I believe.
4 staff?
Yeah.
Right, okay,
I've asked them round. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, you're a star.
No problem.